Hello, everyone. Hello, Beth. Hi, Olive. So glad you could join us again. Hey, Gabby. So good to see you.
Yes, hi ladies.
And Jessica is joining and Wilma. Talk about chanting. That's an awkward thing, chanting.
It can be, can it?
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah. To teach it, it's awkward.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest about that. It is
And
awkward.
I think it's awkward for students too, because they're a little intimidated most of the time.
Well, we're not used to our voice in that way. And then we don't know how to chant.
Mhm.
Do I go low or do I go high?
And then we think maybe it should sound beautiful, like, we're singing.
Because like if you go to yoga, oh, Shante, Shante, it's always like that. But for the Japanese chant, it's oh, it's very low.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really about finding your own voice.
Exactly.
What's your voice? I don't even want anybody to hear the recording of what we're going to be doing. Well, Wilma, you practiced in the animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners. Remember symbol 1, 2, and 3. But now you're going to be a teacher. So now you're like, go people. Yeah, it is a little bit awkward, but everybody feels awkward. So then it's like, okay, well, then no big deal. Oh, good. Beth is coming. Great. Beth is here and we'll wait for her to get on. And hey, Jessica, not sure if you can say hi or not. You can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat or you can just be there and that's totally fine too.
Yes.
Yes, if I can do it, so can you. Exactly. So let's get into, hey, Beth, thanks so much for joining us. So let's get into chanting. And actually, Beth is going to be learning chanting, not next week, but the week after in her level 2 class or Animal Reiki for Reiki practitioners. So this is really good warm up for you, Beth. You can get all your nervousness out now. So we should talk a little bit about the benefits of chanting. I don't know if any of you read that article that I sent to you. That was just kind of an overview, but there's all different kinds of things that chanting can do for the body. And I know that there's been studies that show that it's really healthy for us to chant, right? It's also really good. There's I couldn't find it on here and I'll have to look for it. There's a nerve in your body, the vagus nerve. Does anybody know about the vagus nerve? And so when you chant, it stimulates your vagus nerve, which is really healthy for your body, right? It helps like calm you down. It helps with healing. In the article that I sent to you, one of the stories was a guy had leukemia and he started chanting. And in a few months, he cleared his leukemia. Now, of course, we're not going to say that those are usually outlier kind of things, but it really is cleansing, energizing, and strengthening. So in the animal Reiki, let animals lead method, the first, you learn the symbols and the mantras, and they have chants attached to them. Now, this is probably not traditional Reiki, right, Jamie? We learned that it's Chris March. It's probably not, but it is based on the Japanese techniques of chanting. So symbol 1 is your connection to grounding. And so the chant is O-U-A-E. And when you chant it, you feel more grounded. And then Seiheki is your connection to your more spiritual and psychic awareness, the more expansive energy. So it's A-E-A-Ki is the chant. And then Honshaze Shonen, which is traditionally in Western Reiki, the third symbol is your distant treatment, right? But in the Let Animals Lead, it's your connection. So Honshaze Shonen is basically really kind of clearing your body and helping you to have zero boundaries where now you can connect, right? You're connecting at your heart center, your whole entire body, you can connect. And the chant for that is O-A-Ze-One, O-A-Ze-One. But there's a really simple chant we can do that's a seed syllable chant, and that's the Ah chant. And Ah is, the seed symbol is a Sanskrit. but I know there are some Japanese chants that start with ah. There's one ancient chant. It's called the element chant. It brings in elements, and it's called Abira Unkin. And you can read a lot about it. I read about it in this one thesis. And they were saying that awe is like the beginning, the strength, the foundation for it, right? So Jamie and I thought we could try that with all of you, right, Jamie?
Yes.
So do you want to chant, Jamie?
I'll let you start it.
Okay, all right. Because we have to put ourselves on mute. Everybody has to go on mute because otherwise it'll sound weird. So I'll have to mute you then. Okay. So when we're chanting, we always want to make sure, our back's nice and straight. And we want to make sure that we're taking a couple deep breaths just to kind of cleanse, clear your throat, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out. Now, since we're going to be creating an energy with this chant, let us go into Gasho and let us dedicate this practice to all sentient beings and to ourselves and for our highest purpose. And whenever you're ready, you can bring your hands face up or face down. You can keep your eyes open or keep your eyes closed. If you want to keep your eyes closed, it's totally fine. So the chant is ah. And what we want to do is we want to breathe in through our nose, pull our breath down and deep into our belly. And on the out breath, chant ah. And maybe you can only get one chant out on one breath. But if you can get out more, so maybe it's you breathe in, pull that breath, and then ah, ah. But it might be kind of nice just to do it on one long one on one breath. So breathing in, ah, however long you can do it. So just get yourself relaxed. Don't worry about how you sound. Maybe play with it. Maybe you can go high, low, but just maybe close your eyes, close out distractions, and let's begin. Breathing in through your nose, and then ah, ah. I'll keep the chanting at your own pace. You don't have to match me. Just join in whenever you want. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. And we're going to sit for a moment in the space that we've created. Just allow yourself to relax and sink into this energy. Whenever you're ready, we'll start the chant again. Ah, ah, ah. Just sit in the space again. Whenever you're ready, you can bring yourself back, bring your hands into gasho. Sorry about that. Nika decided that the meditation was over. We need to come back into the space. So let's unmute you, or you can, I guess, I'm just going to put ask to unmute, and that way you can unmute yourself if you need to. But I would love to hear, well, Jamie, first, let's start with you. How was that for you?
That was good. I tried it at different levels. So I was loud, and then I was quieter, and then I was kind of a whisper. Sophie, every time I chant, she like seems to want to bite my nose, or she's right up here. And the others, they love the chanting. She gets, a little excited by it. But I noticed that when I'm softer with her, then it's not so much that she's like right in my face.
Ah, interesting. So she wants a softer chant.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah, the dogs here, well, Nika she didn't care one way or the other. Penny, the other little ducks, and she got relaxed. So that was nice. But yeah, so I was trying to kind of play with it too. And that's what you have to do. I always tell my students when they're learning chanting, practice it in the car or in the shower, where you have that space and you can just be as loud or low. Because if you live with someone, I live alone, Jamie lives alone, so we can practice. But if you live with someone, you might want to. And sometimes I think my neighbors, because this isn't a very soundproof apartment, I think, oh my God, what my neighbors must think.
And if you have neighbors that are a problem, just go out and chant, and they'll be like, oh, ooh, gotta move.
Right. Or you sound like it's like a native, like when you do like Honshase Shonen, the third symbol, the connection symbol, it's like Owaze One. It's almost like Native American, right?
Yes.
So Owaze One, Owaze One. And so then you feel like, oh wow, what is that? But yeah, but you can tell like from different cultures, right? Chanting has been incorporated, the Native Americans, the Indians, Japanese, Chinese, all the ancient cultures all incorporate chanting, and there's got to be a reason for it, right? And they say, it brings good health, it brings stability, it brings what was the happiness, energy. If
energy, yes.
Like you need some energy, it can be really energizing. Beth, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Because earlier we were doing Hatsoreho with animals, and it's a very deep meditation and it can make you feel off. So I was wondering how the chanting felt for you, Beth.
It felt like grounding. It was like what I needed. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. I love that. That's what I was, because when we were doing the meditation, and this is something like when you do meditations, especially the Hatsureho. So Beth and I were doing, and the other students, it's, you do the dry bathing, then you do the Joshin Kokyoho, then you do the Seisen Choitsu, then you do the healing bridge, and then end with the precepts. So it's a lot of meditation and you're going really deep. And we were saying how sometimes when you come out of that, it's almost like when you first fall asleep for a nap and then you're jolted awake and it makes you feel really weird inside. You feel off balance, like you need grounding. So we were saying how, it's good after meditation to get some grounding in. And then we did this practice. So I'm like, oh, Beth, let's hear it. Because I feel the same way. I feel much better, right? It feels really grounding. So that's something you can do, Beth, is just do that ah chant. And then when we get to the symbols and mantras, you can do the Chokurei chant is really good for grounding.
And one thing I was going to ask, like, how do animals, so like I work in a rescue shelter. Obviously, I'm not going to do that when I'm at work, but I just wondered, how have you done it in shelters before? Or
Yeah. So I'll say something and then I know Jamie has something to say about this too. So really with the chanting, it's more about your energy than the chant in a lot of ways. So like what Jamie was showing, Sophie's telling her, I want a softer chant. Not that I don't want you to chant, I want a softer chant. I did the level 2, which is, you have to chant symbols 1, 2, and 3 in a cattery with cats all around us. Those cats slept the entire time. They were completely zonked out. In fact, at the end of the second day, the lady who was running the cat network said, they just won't wake up. They're just completely in this. But when I was teaching a one-on-one class and we were doing Seihei Ki chant, because I have a hard time with that one sometimes, my energy's off. The golden retriever that was with us, Chokurei, totally fine. Seihei Ki, she was snapping at my face to stop chanting. And then we got to Honshaze Shonen, completely zonked out. So it can be your energy and not necessarily the chant. But if you practice at home and get your tone, you can then go into the shelter and just quietly do the chanting. It's actually a really good thing to have when you work with the shelter because it can be really grounding for you and it can help you stay focused, right? Because you're focusing on that, I'm chanting, and your mind doesn't have a tendency to wander when you chant. So yeah, so Jamie, I'd love to hear about that.
So I go out to a sanctuary, not necessarily a shelter, but when I chant with the animals, I usually start soft, but it just depends. There are some animals that really enjoy, I can be a louder chant and they're okay with it. Others like it soft. So I start soft and then I'll get louder. And sometimes you're absolutely right, Leah. It is about our energy more so than the chant itself with the animals, because there's animals who have come up and really enjoyed the chant, and then I'll be out there other times and they're, maybe they're just kind of moving away, going to the back pasture or whatever. So there was something, they just weren't in the mood for it. But I think the animals really respond to it. I have seen them, like the horses, the donkey, the emus. The emus loved the chanting. And, they kind of chant. If you've ever been around an emu, they make this drum sound. It's kind of like, I can't do it, but, it's like somebody's pounding a drum and that's the sound they make. So it's like a chant for them. And so that may be why they responded so well to it. But it doesn't have to be loud. If you're in I'm out in a 10-acre pasture, but if you're in a shelter, you can still do this quietly, because even quietly, animals respond to it. They feel that energy of the sound, the vibration of the sound too.
And sometimes they'll join in. Like I know at Brighthaven, the goose, you would do it and you go, oh. And Gabby, did you have that experience? Do you want to share?
Oh yeah, totally. I have a dog and she just sings along. It's the cutest thing. And then she relaxes and then she goes like, ah. But I also like to tell another story, because you were saying it, it's in all cultures. Many years ago, I saw a documentary, a narrative, The Weeping Camel. And it's in Mongolia. And when the camel, the mothers, they have milk, and sometimes they're orphans. And so the people want to get the orphans to drink some milk, so kind of foster. And they do it by playing a string instrument. The man plays string instrument, and the woman, she sings, she chants. And at some point it breaks through, and then the mother camel, there's a tear coming out, and that's the moment where they put the orphan, and the mother will not kick the orphan, and the orphan can drink milk. So I saw that many years ago, and I thought, that is so cool. You always sang to your own cat. And then eventually I remembered the melody, and then when I started to do Reiki, I actually came up with my own syllables, which I chant. And it's Shu, S-H-U. And at some point I went on the computer and looked it up, and it's really cool because it's the Egyptian god for preservation, which
Oh,
is so perfect. And I chant to the animals all the time. They love it. And I normally chant kind of low, quiet, because they totally pick it up.
I love that. Thank you. That's great. Did anyone else want to share an experience with animals? Beth, do you want to?
I have a question. Can I
Oh,
ask a question?
absolutely.
Is there any one chant that you recommend over the other, or which?
For level, like, so you are level 3, right? You're
Two.
Oh, 2. Okay, 2. Then I think any of them are good. It's really what you resonate with best, because your energy will be calm in that, because you feel good when you chant it. So for me, if I was going to pick one, I would pick Honshaze Shonen, because it's kind of like everything. It's grounding, it's expansive, it's connectedness, but I resonate really well with it. I wouldn't pick Seiheki because I don't resonate as much with it, although I'm more comfortable with it now. So really, like, I would practice and then decide, oh, okay, which one do I feel really comfortable with? Which one makes me feel really good inside? And then practice that. And then you can practice it with, like, around the cats, and when you go to volunteer, or out at Little Red Barn, when you go out there, try it with Kelly, practice that. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. It's just hard to know until you do it. And then it's like, well, like what Gabby said, she created her own seed syllable that she does. And so you can do that even. Chanting, there's no right or wrong. It's really a primordial sound kind of thing. And you're creating that sound within you. See how the animals respond to you. But I think they respond when you're in that space. They respond really positively, because out of care, care is a wild animal sanctuary, and they have wild animals. They also have barn animals, and they have geese and ducks, and they have chickens, and they have emus, and they have pigs. And then it's out in a rural area, so there's a lot of wildlife. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It is loud when you go there. But when we do the chants, the whole property goes quiet. Even the wild birds quiet down, and everyone is quiet in that space. So everyone is connecting to that. And it's a really incredible experience, because you realize that the energy that everyone is creating through the chanting is also being connected to with the wildlife, with the trees, with the property, with everything, right? It's not just like we're connecting with the animals with this chant. You're actually, the vibrations helping you connect with everything around you. And in a group setting, it's really powerful. Sometimes by ourselves, it's a little bit harder to generate that energy, but in a group setting, it's really powerful, which is why, going to a group class is good, or going to a Reiki show where they're going to do that kind of thing is a really good thing, because you can really start to feel the chanting.
And I was out at Keepers, and I know you've been there, Leah, one time, and my friend and I went, and no one else was there. We were the only two, other than the workers, we were the only two people. So it was in November, it was cool. And so I just walked through it chanting. And they have a tiger there named Chaos, who has been abused, and he's always pacing and always a mess. And I stood in front of him and chanted, and he kind of came up and looked at me, and then he just laid down, which is something Chaos doesn't do. He's just constantly, because of his
A lot of pain.
Yeah, he's in a lot of pain. And so just that chanting. And so I just walked up the hills and around all the animals just slowly, and I would stop and I would chant and then I would move on. And it was absolutely just almost magical, that experience, and the animals responded to it. All of them did. So I feel really fortunate, that nobody else was there. So I just felt free to do that. Because I think if we're not inhibited as well, if we're like, oh, are people going to look at me? Or, are they going to think I'm weird? What am I doing? That's going to come across to the animal. But when we can just let go and chant and do that without any worries, it's really powerful.
Yeah, I like how you said that, like if we're feeling insecure, right? That's an energy.
Yes.
Insecurity is an energy that is not a calming energy. It is an aggravating energy. So that's something to remember when you try to practice this. So I have a few of these chanting stories, if you don't mind, and I'll share it. It's when we were out at Essex, England. Essex, the Remus, the horse rescue, they have 200 animals and they have huge pastures. I mean, they're enormous pastures. And so Kathleen was teaching level 3 and we were chanting the chokure, and we're walking along a path and we're walking by this pasture, but we're walking on the side where is really across probably at least 100 yards from these other horses. And as we're chanting and walking, these horses like lifted their heads and they came galloping up to, so there's like probably 15 horses just galloping towards the fence. And then they slammed on their brakes about 5 feet from the fence. It's like they were electrified and they were just all curious, ears forward, just what is this? But then as we kept going, they relaxed and they're like, oh, but it was really cool how they responded. And then another time I was out at Pregnant Mare Rescue doing a class and we did the awe chant. We just walked doing the awe chant, and the lead horse, Whiskey, he did not like that. He was rearing, he was neighing. He just like, as we started to walk around the property, he wanted us to be like right by the horses. But as soon as we started to walk off and do the chant, he started to get all upset. So it's funny how they react to the chanting, and not necessarily in a negative way. It's more either like, I want you to stay here, or what is this, out of curiosity, right? So it's a really cool thing to do for yourself, but also to use to like connect to those animals. But, and one more story, and this one's really cool. We, Kathleen and I, and this was interesting that happened to her. And she tells this story. I think she has a blog about it, about healing with the snakes. How when we went into the snake room at Care, because I used to have all these snakes up on the walls and everything, I went into the middle and we do chanting. The snakes respond to the chant. And so Kathleen had just had surgery, her mastectomy, like a few months before, and she only had like a fourth of the range of motion for her arm. So she couldn't reach it up past here or even here. And the snake, one of the rattlesnakes, started to do this as we're chanting. And she just kind of started matching her arm with it. And then pretty soon her arm was like up high. And then she just kind of kept doing that. It didn't hurt. She didn't have any pain. And then, when we were done, it came back down and she had range of motion after that chanting session with the snake. It was really incredible. And when you would sit in that room with the snakes, and there's snakes all around, some of the snakes, they would climb up the glass. So they would be like slither over, and then they would stand up and like go all the way up the glass. I don't know if it was a vibration or what. So it was really interesting. And I went to the Oregon Zoo where they had this huge anaconda, and it's like this fat around. And my friend Lindsay and I, we were chanting chokure, so it was oh, but we were doing it so quiet. We're just like oh, and the anaconda started to climb up the glass and go up, and we're like, oh my God. And people were coming in the room because it's open, but going, what's the snake doing? That's weird. And we're just like, so there's something with the chanting and that vibration that we don't really understand, but we know that it's a vibration that's being created because these animals are responding to it, and they're responding positively, right? So, and then like, look what happened with Kathleen. I mean, just from chanting and being open to the snakes, she was able to heal her arm. It was really quite incredible.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And, just like that article that you sent out, Leah, and, and it said that it heals the body. Chanting can heal the body is one of the benefits.
Mm-hmm. It clears you, it grounds you, it gives you energy. What else was in there?
Less negative emotional
Oh
challenge.
yeah.
Better
Makes you
sleep.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
the
it's
vagus nerve too. The vagus nerve is like when you stimulate your vagus nerve, it brings joy to your body.
Slows the aging process.
Oh, hello.
Hello, everybody.
Oh wait. Hey, Mary Lynn, did you have something to say?
Oh, no, I was going
Okay.
to,
Oh, Wilma did. Wilma has something. Sorry about
I
that.
was saying, yay,
Oh,
aging.
yeah.
That's,
Well, the other night I went to bed and Felix was up on the foot of the bed with me and I started to chant really, really low. I believe it was Shukre or it was the element chant.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
And anyway, he literally got up and he came right to my face. He laid down on my arm. And the minute that I stopped chanting, he went back to the foot of the bed. I started chanting again. He got up. He came to my face again and he laid down. And this went on for about a good 10 minutes. And then finally I must have fallen asleep because I don't know what happened after that.
That's so funny. So when you chanted, he wanted to kind of be up by you, and then when you'd stop, he would just go to the foot of
Yeah,
the
he'd look at me like as if to say, what? You're stopping, but I guess I was starting to fall asleep. But then when he'd move to go down to the foot of the bed, well, I come to. So I'd start chanting again, and then he'd get up. He'd come right up to my arm, and he'd sit there and he'd look at me and he'd meow. The minute I stopped, he went back to the foot of the bed.
Oh my
Really
God.
cool. Really cool.
Yeah, we don't know what, like it's good for us to practice this. There's so many different ways that we can help our bodies and our minds and our spirit with these different let animals lead practice, the chanting. But even if you don't do the symbols 1 and 2, if you just do the ah chant or element chant is one you can look up. There's all different kinds. I don't know, Jamie, if there's any other chants that you do.
I'm trying to think offhand, sometimes the Om,
Oh yeah.
that's a universal one as well. But I would
Don't
say that's about it.
Don't they say the vibration of Om is the vibration of creation?
That's what I've heard. Yes.
Yeah. So then that's a really good one to do as well. Just do the Om chant. You don't have to have a special chant. There's no magical chant. But again, like bringing that chant to your bodies. Did you have something to say, Beth?
Yeah, I chant the precepts in Japanese.
Oh yeah, Kodadama. So then the Kodadama, that power of the word, right? And so there's probably Kodadama in chanting. I should look that up.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, just the power of words. That's what Kodadama means. It's the power of them. So yeah. So we have some time. Any more questions about chanting, or you want to do any practice? Oh yes, Olive. Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The only observation I made when we were starting was I felt kind of stiff, maybe a little, yeah, like vocally, like wavering. So what I did was I hummed a little bit. I like hum, and that seemed to like, well, I'm nervous. So of course, that was like this, but it seemed to kind of bring it into a better, more grounding kind of place. All my dogs left. So what I'm doing might not be happy for them. Anyways, I thought a little humming was a very nice way to kind of warm into probably any chant. It gives you kind of a grounding, which felt really good. So I just thought I'd offer that.
Yeah, no, I like that because it kind of helps warm up your vocal cords too. And humming is the same thing as chanting when it comes to your vagus nerve, so humming is powerful as well. So, just that vibration again, right? Just go try humming with the snakes at the zoo. They have to say. Yes, Gabby. So any other questions or comments? That was really helpful, Olive. I love that. Thank
Yep.
you. And that's why we're here, right? We learn from each other.
Yes.
I love that humming. So no other questions? We still have some time. If you don't want to talk more about chanting, we've talked about this subject before, but it's a really good subject to bring up again because Olive actually wasn't on this call, and I don't know. I think Wilma was though. Was when we talked, and I don't know if Beth was we talk about protection, right? So Beth is new to this this learning that let animals lead, and she was asking about protection and what we do. So I would love to open it up to all of you to help share your opinions about protection, if you have any. Like Gabby, I don't know if because you've been doing this a long time too, what your thoughts are about protection.
Well, in the beginning, we tune in, and in the end, I tune out and give the thanking and all that. And if I feel like it's heavy energy, I just shake it off. But I don't really share the belief that it comes into our body. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
For me, it's all love and light. So I might
Yeah.
just shake it out a little bit to, yeah, but very, very, very rarely actually.
Yeah, because I think because of this practice, we're very open. And when you're open, there's nothing to attach to because you're in this open space. But if you're like this, oh, I've got all these walls up, these boundaries, I'm scared, right? Fear, anger, those are all walls around us. Now something can attach to it. Now, and I know that in the psychic world, they say, oh, you have to protect yourself, right? You have to protect yourself from entities. You have to protect yourself. And in fact, just not even too long ago, I went to a psychic and she was like, oh, you have all these people attached to you. Well, the attachments are my own, right? I'm attached to those people as well as them being attached to me, right? So if I'm angry at someone, I'm attached to them. If I'm worried about someone, I'm attached to them. Anything like that. So then I have to ask myself, okay, am I holding on to attachments that I need to let go? But I think that, like Beth, if you're just going and working with animals, right, you don't have to even worry about that. But with people, and I don't know, Beth, if you want to unmute yourself and then just kind of comment on any particulars.
Yeah, it just sometimes if I'm in like really busy places or like, yeah, if I'm around people that are, even if I get on the bus and I could just feel that somebody's really anxious or stuff, and sometimes I find that hard to separate. And yeah, psychics have told me that I need to, even in my human Reiki training, I was taught like the bubble method and stuff, but then I've also been taught that you don't need to do that, and that's actually like a waste of your energy because you're putting in your energy to creating all these.
Right.
So it's just hard because sometimes I've got to really focus on myself if I'm in a situation where it's like really busy and there's a lot going on. I can feel other people's emotions. I've got to try and be like, there must be something in me that's that's triggering that, because if I didn't feel like that some way myself, then I don't think I'd be picking up on others. I'm not sure if that's
That's a really good point. I'm really glad you said that, because that's true, right? Because how you're feeling is going to be mirrored, right? So that's what we're teaching when we go sit with animals. Our emotions are going to be mirrored, which is why maybe if when you're going, you're going to be going into a place that's really busy, you just focus on your light, right? Your love and your light. And that way, as you go, it's like, oh, somebody's anxious. I'm going to send you love and light, so that you're actually doing something at that point. So it's helping you to like say, I'm giving you a blessing. I'm sending you love. I'm sending you, support, whatever that is. And that way you're just this beautiful light coming in, and things can actually calm down with your light instead of you coming in, because already probably before you even get to where you're going, where there's going to be people, you're already anxious. There's already a level of anxiety that's there. And then you get on the bus and you start to feel everybody else's anxiety. And that's that mirror, right? I'm anxious. I'm mirroring that. It's being mirrored back to me. So now we're in this really tight thing. And especially after COVID, I can totally relate with that. But what I focus on is just, okay, I'm feeling anxious. I don't want to feel this way. So, okay, I'm really grateful I'm here. I'm just going to focus on my light. And I kind of ignore everybody at that point. It's kind of like, I don't have to pay attention to what everybody else is doing. I don't have to connect or understand or anything. You know, it's kind of like you go into your own little world. And it was funny because in class this morning, the precept be humble came up, and it was, you know, that precept is more about your ego, right? Be humble, don't let your ego get involved. But the humility part, sometimes people take it as, well, you put yourself as less than, right? That I don't deserve to have space, or I don't deserve to feel good, or whatever, because other people aren't, right? So that isn't what humility is about. That's putting yourself second, and that's out of integrity with who you are. So for you, Beth, you know, when you're feeling like that, just go to whatever grounds you, like even like this chant, right? Create that light within you and then get on the bus, right? And if you start feeling yourself getting a little bit anxious, go, no, this isn't mine. This is theirs. And I'm going to mirror back love. I'm going to put love out and do your chant to yourself. You can kind of whisper it. You can do it in your head. You can draw, you're going to learn chokure. So you can draw a chokure on your hand, just whatever is going to get your focus going inward and not outward, because whatever is happening out here, you don't have to worry about. Obviously you have to keep yourself safe, but you don't have to pick up on other people's stuff. And I would love to hear, Jamie, what you have to say about that too.
You can definitely say no. And I had this experience. It was a human Reiki class. And we were there, and I was on the table. A woman who was working on me had been terribly abused, and she had been really shy and you know, quiet. And you could tell that she'd been through a lot, and she was coming out of it. She was really working Reiki to kind of help herself. And when I am getting a treatment, I always say I travel, and I just go and I'm somewhere else and I'm out there, and I was enjoying myself. And all of a sudden I had this vision of, you know, like those little friendship rings, the bodies that stood around, they were all black and they were above me. And I got really angry because they were getting in my good vibe. And I was like, if you are not for my highest good, I'm thinking this, if you are not for my highest good, you need to leave now, because I was mad. And then immediately I felt the disconnect from the woman who had been working on me. And then I was like trying to come back, you know, and I was like, where are you? Where are you? And the teacher came over. She goes, she's okay. I've got her. And she was on the floor in a fetal position. So whether or not it was something that was going on with her or whatever, but I learned that, you know, if anything like that happens, no, if you're not for my highest good, you need to leave.
Yeah.
And they were gone instantly as soon as I said that.
Yeah. Like I've heard that same thing that happened to my ex-husband, and he had to do that because he kept getting like something dark was coming. And, this really good woman, spiritual healer she goes, just tell them no, just tell them to leave. And my friend Taya, who's a medium, when she was young, she had spirits coming to her all the time. And you have to say, no, you can't come in right now. No. And so for you, Beth, you might be really intuitive. You might be really sensitive. We're all empaths, but you might be more of a sensitive empath. You just kind of, it's a boundary, not a wall. It's a boundary, a line in the sand where you're like, no. And that's really good as a woman to get in practice of saying, no, I'm not taking that on. I'm sunshine and roses. You're not going to darken my pathway, right? All of you are going to say something.
I'm glad you brought up empaths in this protection issue that we're discussing. there are many, many empaths in this program. And I think in terms of protection, maybe not always aware of the sensations that you're taking in all the time, because it's all the time. It's not like, well, I'm going to be an empath, at 12. And so I'll be, protecting myself until then or something. I think it is a sensory thing. I liked what Jamie just said about if you're not here for my higher good, maybe that might be a very important thing to remember for empaths, because in the middle of working with animals, they pick up everything, but you're also picking up things in the environment, the people that are there. They might be working hard. When I'm out with the horses, there's a lot of hard work going on. People are stressed trying to get things done. And I'm extremely empathetic about their workload. When I walk in, I see what they're doing, and I'm not young anymore, but I immediately want to jump right in and help out. And so to disengage from that feeling that I have for the people that are working so hard, and I can see their I'm taking all this in. And I think I'm going to take Jamie's note and say, I am here for the horses. This is not for my higher good right at the moment. I'm here for the horses. And maybe I never think of myself as having to protect, but that is a very good thing to bring up, because empathy doesn't have a barrier. It doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't have a boundary. It is what it is. It's, you take in everything. And sometimes it can be sensory overload in a really big way, and you might be in a place where the animals are picking up on your ability to pick up on everything that's going on in their environment. So maybe that a chant is good, but I like that.
Well, not to interrupt you, sorry about that, Ella, but here's the thing about our practice. That's why we have to say the precepts every single day, because they strengthen you. They make you worry. For today only, do not worry, right? Fear is distracted, do not anger. Anger is an illusion. So keeping those precepts with us every single day creates a strength within you, so that now, everybody is an empath. It's just that some people cover it up with other things. They cover it up with anger, they cover it up with alcohol, they cover it up with drugs, they cover it up with, like, I'm going to be really busy at work, whatever that is. But everyone at their core is an empath, right? We're all empathetic people, but some do others. So when we go to sit with animals, what our energy, everything that we're coming to them, we're worried, we're this, we're that. When we sit down, boom, that's what they feel, right? Instead, we have to cultivate that energy of love and light and peace and joy within us, so that when we sit with them, that is what they feel. So when you go to the horse thing, prepare yourself in your car, prepare yourself with the precepts. That is your armor. You don't have to put up all these things. Your precepts are, because they strengthen you. They give you humility. They give you compassion. So now when you go and see everyone and you say, you know what, I send you love and light. And you go to the horses, love and light, so that you are this beautiful ball, array of light, of love and light and joy. And when you come in the room, everyone feels better. Instead of us going, oh, I don't want any part of that. Okay, so I'm going to stay away from that. I don't want any part of that either. I'm going to stay away from that. Instead, we build that strength within us with our precepts, with whatever practices help us. And then when we get on the bus or we go to, difficult situations, we have it. Now, that's not to say, oh my God, you're impenetrable. You're not. But so that's why we have, like what Jamie said, you're not here for my highest good, please leave. Or you stop and you do self-reflection. Wait, what about this situation is making me feel nervous? Because we get triggered, right? We get triggered by things that happened in the past. So you could be triggered by, I used to hate it when people didn't jump in and help. So there's guilt when you show up, right? Like, oh, they're working so hard, I should jump in. There could be all kinds of things that are triggering you. And it's you. It's not them. They're just working hard. They're just doing their thing. They might not even care. They might be really happy doing what they're doing. Even if they seem stressed, they might really love what they do. And so, but your perception is, oh, okay, they're really stressed out, this is happening. But that could be your trigger. So when we start to feel these things, we have to ask ourselves, okay, what about this is making me uncomfortable? What about this is making me feel like I need to protect myself, or I need this. And so for like Beth on the bus, it could be something like, I feel uncomfortable with a lot. Be as simple as that, right? Especially after COVID, where we've got all these fears about catching something. Just people are ruder. They're not as nice after COVID. And so there's always that, oh, I just don't want, or you just, I mean, people in your space, people are bubble poppers. They like get in your space now, and you're just like, I don't like that. So just really identifying what you don't like about the bus or wherever you have to go where there's going to be crowds, and then say, okay, so maybe what I could do is I'll just find somebody who seems pretty peaceful and I'll go sit by them. And then together, our peaceful energy will help fill the bus, right? So you just kind of help yourself by doing self-reflection and really thinking about, because we don't do that a lot. A lot of it's like, well, this is happening out here. And it's, you know, I mean, they're coming at me with their energy, da, 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 and it's like, well, are they? Or are you saying, wow, I really don't like this. I don't like people coming at me. This is making me feel uncomfortable. For whatever reason, it's triggering you. And so self-reflection is really good in these situations, because there is no magic pill for all of this. There's no magic wave our wand to go, beep, now you're just completely love and light. We have to work at it, right? And that's what the animals help us do. Because think about the animals in all the positions that they're difficult positions that they're put in by people, and they just deal with it. And it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to deal with it because that's just the animal I am. It's more like, is this worth a fight? You know, is this worth it? It's just sometimes, you know, you just choose peace. Okay. Just be peaceful and go.
And you can come up with a trigger, you know, like, because sometimes you walk into environments, and I've been there, where you can tell there's either lots of activity, or when I would go to crime scenes, there was very heavy energy. But you don't have to take that on. You can come up with a trigger to remind you of that. And that could be whatever it is for you. It could be, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I feel this, so I'm going to take a deep breath and get calm. It could be the precepts. Maybe it's some acupressure point, you know, but whatever it is, do it all the time when you're in those situations. So it immediately puts you in that place of calm again.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Jamie. Or like putting your earbuds in, Beth, and putting in that calming music, like
Right.
you use to when you do meditation. So that way your body immediately goes into that calmer space. And it's not like you're never going to feel anxious or anything around people. We all do. I still do, you know, but am I going to focus on that? Or am I just going to kind of let that go and focus on what brings me happiness? Focus on, oh my gosh, I love driving past this, or, oh, I love, you know, at a concert or something. Oh, I'm happy I'm here because I'm going to hear this music, or whatever that is. Because unfortunately, the world we live in now is a lot different than it was before COVID. And there's a lot more stressors and triggers, because you have to imagine, for a whole year, they scared the shit out of us. Okay, you're going to go out. It's like you're taking your life in your hands. You know, we just get that constant. And then now we're supposed to, you know, go back to normal. You can't after a traumatic. We all have post-traumatic stress disorder after COVID. So now it's just like, how can we help replenish ourselves? How can we help nourish ourselves? How can we help remind ourselves, like Jamie said, when you feel that trigger, give yourself something and make it consistent. And then that way it's Pavlov's response. I feel stressed. This is going to make me feel better. Just that. And just bringing that joy to your heart, right? Doing the smiling meditation, right? Just
I love that.
something that makes you happy. Bunnies, that's bunnies for me. And then immediately you smile and you're like, and everything else kind of floats away, right? So I really appreciate you bringing that up to me, Beth, because this is a really important topic, and it comes up a lot. And I like that everybody has different ways to help with that, because we all feel it. But the more you get in this practice, Beth, the more tools you'll have, and the less you'll start to feel this. Because Kathleen was a very anxious person so I met her in 2007. And she didn't want to travel at all, because she didn't like to travel. She was really scared to travel. She got really super nervous. If she would go into restaurants, she would get really super nervous and get sick and get really bad headaches, like migraines. And so she couldn't, you know, for her, life was really narrow. But teaching and practicing the way that we teach and practice, you know, this whole way that she created, she gained a lot of strength. I remember the first time she and I flew together, I think it was to Utah, to Best Friends, you know, and she needed like me to like help calm her down, and everything's going to be fine, and do, you know, breathing, hard breathing. But she was a very, very anxious person. Now she's a completely different person. But a lot of that is the practice, right? Really focusing on the practice to build that inner strength so that you no longer feel that. But you're not alone in feeling really anxious when you go out, or feeling like you're taking stuff on. That's really, like Olive said, in this community, that's a lot of people. That's why we're drawn to this practice. That's why we're drawn to animals, right? We're sensitive, so we feel them more deeply. So, you know, your quest is not any different than all of ours. Just finding that peace in difficult times.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gabby. Yeah.
Just a nice little tool which I used for a long time is find like a really nice stone, nice smooth stone, have it in your pocket. And then when you feel ungrounded or so, just touch it and connect back with the earth. And I hardly ever need it anymore, but I did for quite a while. So it really, really can ground you.
I did the same thing, Gabby. You just reminded me at work. I used to work at this really high freaking power law firm where there's 400 attorneys. It was huge. And I worked for one of the top attorneys. So it was just like, and I carried like a rubbing stone, and I would put it in my pocket, and I would just, or I'd sit at my desk and they'd be all blah, 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 and I'm just rubbing my stone. Yep. And the precepts at my desk. But people noticed I was calmer, because they would want to work with me because I was calmer than most people. And not that I was that calm, but I was calmer than most, because you find ways. And I love that, because that's exactly what I did. It was like it had like kind of a little bit groove, so my thumb would go right in it. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a really good, or a crystal. Yeah, Mary Lynn.
Yeah. Based on what Gabby said, I carry with me all the time, and especially when I'm offering Reiki, is this heart crystal.
Yeah.
And this tiny little amethyst, and then these two quartz crystals. And it's funny because I was given the advice from an animal to go find myself these stones, these crystals in particular, and use them on myself and others when I am offering Reiki. And
nice.
so I just find it comforting.
Yeah. Then go to a crystal shop, Beth, too. You could do and ask for a grounding stone. Like I think what is it like?
Oh, it's the black one. There's
green
one.
quartz is a really good.
Is that one? Yeah, because I have a black. Here it is. Let me get it.
There's a lot of grounding stones that you can find that would be good too, or just a rock from the beach or wherever. Yeah.
This one.
Nicholas Pearson has a great book that, if you're into crystals, he has a great book that talks all about the different crystals and what they mean to you. But just lots of different ways for us to ground ourselves, because when we're grounded, we're open, and then nothing can attach to us. And then we're stronger, right? To say, if you're not here for my highest good, beat it.
That's right. Boundaries, ladies, boundaries.
Boundaries, yes. Hard for us women, but we got to put the boundaries up. Nope. And it's not a wall. It's a line in the sand. Yep. Don't cross it.
Don't come in. Out. Don't mess with my groove.
Truly. Well, thank you so much, ladies. This was really wonderful. I love the conversations that we have. And you know, like Beth had emailed me the question about groundings or about protection. So if you have questions that come up, just email us, and then we can talk about it, because you can see how we all have different opinions, different experiences, and hopefully it helps all of us grow.
Yes.
So, thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Hope to see you next week.
Good to see you. Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good week.